Brendan Sorsby and company got to turn up the explosiveness on their offense this week if they're going to keep up with BYU.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the country, and we're glad that you're alongside us here today. My name is Jeff Carr. I've worked in multiple athletic departments in a media relations environment, and I've been a season ticket holder for Bearcats football for 7 years now. I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. And joining us as well will be Russ Heltman in just a moment, and we are going to break down football and basketball and looking ahead at the weekend. We'll give you our predictions a little bit later on in the show for a big weekend in Cincinnati athletics. In a few minutes, we'll discuss exactly what the Bearcats need to do against a national contender type team, national title contender type team in Louisville on Friday night. We will begin, though, with the football team because that explosiveness that the offense loves to have, that's got to be on point Saturday night and Nippert night to stick with BYU. That's all on today's episode that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new users can get $300 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 wager. Download that FanDuel app today. And joining us, as he always does this time of week, is one of the most trusted voices in Clifton, Russ Heltman. Russ, what you got for me?
Busy, Jeff. Ready to roll. It's going to be a jam-packed weekend in Cincinnati from high school to college to pro football. We got it all in this Queen City coming up.
I was glad to see it was a quick distraction there. I was glad to see that Elder and St. X are going to be playing at Paycor. Like it was criminal that wasn't even the original plan, but
we're paying for all these renovations to the stadium and we can't even host high school football regionals there every year. I don't know why that's not just happening every single year, but different podcast.
At least they got it right. That's the key. Yes, different podcast though, because we're talking about the Bearcats, and the Bearcats football team have a huge, this is it, right? Like this is, if they even want a prayer, want a hope, want a shot to get to Dallas, you got to win this week. And in order to win this week, the explosive plays that they were not able to connect on against Arizona have to return, and they have to return pretty consistently this Saturday night.
Yeah, this BYU defense is very good. Very, very good. One of the top 10 defenses in the country in terms of pass defenses this season. And they've been pretty stout in terms of not giving up those big plays on the campaign. Just 32nd. They rank 32nd nationally with just 35 20-plus yard plays allowed to their opponents this season, Jeff. And you can't have the dropsies this week if you're Isaiah Johnson or Noah Jennings or Jeff Caldwell. 4, possibly 5 drops you could list in that game last week, which is a big reason why Brendan Sorsby's stat line in the box score was bad, but his grade on Pro Football Focus was the best on offense, 77.6 overall. And they liked his grade. They liked his performance because he put the ball in the right place. His teammates just did not make the right plays. If they let those opportunities go by the wayside here, it's all over, like you said. And our friends at FanDuel kind of think it's already all over because they have them, 80-1 now to win the Big 12 conference after being, I think, as low as 6-1 as of 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, they really cut them back there when it comes to that because there's just so much that has to happen. Like they got to win. Utah definitely has to lose. And then I don't know what
I think is like an 80% favorite in both of their final 2 games against Kansas State and one, I forget the other team they play, but
both Kansas teams. They just stay in Kansas, I think, for the next 2 weeks. Is what the deal is there. But yeah, no, you're right. Like it seems as though they've got the favorable matchups. And I'm not sure, like the Arizona State and Houston bit of this, I don't know how the tiebreaker works with them since the Bearcats didn't play either one of those teams. But I think that ultimately the key here is you just got to win. And BYU, not only on the defensive side are they good, but the offensive side, they know their game. And their game is methodical. It's very, let's move the ball down the field at whatever pace you're going to allow us. And the Bearcats love to allow that 5 to 6 yard play. And that kind of feels like where BYU lives. Like Bear Bachmeier is going to be more than happy to see that soft zone coverage that, albeit they did have a few blitzes against Arizona last week. Love to see them dial up a few of those this week, but those are few and far between. It's still that soft zone that we're seeing on the Bearcats defense.
And even without Noah Fafita doing really much of anything on the ground, we talked about him not being much of a threat there. he still tore up this defense. I mean, you could argue this was his best performance passing the football at Arizona in his entire career. Had, I believe, the highest graded offensive mark for any quarterback in the country among Pro Football Focus's grades last week, and 94.88 overall or something. I mean, it makes sense, Jeff. Some of those down the sideline throws he was threading in there were just absolutely astounding. And Cincinnati is going to have to deal with Bear Bachmeier's passing this week in that sense as well, on top of the scrambling issues that Bear Bachmeier represents. And this is where I think it's just really daunting for Cincinnati to overcome this BYU team and this BYU offense, because Bear Bachmeier is probably licking his chops thinking about that soft zone you mentioned, the lack of pressure they bring, and the gaps that are in the first and second level as a scrambler. Cincinnati this season, 112th in pressure rate, 112th in sack EPA, 109th in scramble rate allowed, 124th in scramble EPA. I mean, you look at Bear Bachmeier, 58 in scramble rate, 9th in sack EPA, BYU is on offense, and 29th in pressure rate allowed. If they give Bear Bachmeier all day to make his decisions through 1, 2, 3, or 4 reads and then go run the ball, like you said, they're going to be able to methodically move the ball up and down the field. And the quality drive rate difference here is not super massive between the BYU defense and the Cincinnati defense. Cincinnati allowing a quality drive on 51.1% of their opponent possessions. BYU at 44.4% on defense, but the points per quality drive rate is where there's a huge difference here. 48th nationally for Cincinnati defensively, BYU 6th nationally in their points per quality drive rate allowed on defense. And we will likely see red zone execution come into major play here in this matchup on Saturday night between two offenses that have shown that they can move the ball up and down the field throughout this season.
Yeah, it feels like the Bearcats presenting themselves on defense as a bend but don't break defense is exactly what BYU wants to see. And the other part of this too is that BYU is fantastic at converting third and fourth downs, and that's just something that we see a lot this season, really absolutely sinking this Bearcats defense, where it's like you get to that point and you feel as though you just need one more play, but then the offense is the unit that makes the play in that moment. We've just not seen the Bearcats defense come up with enough of those stops to get off the field and get Brendan Sorsby back on the field. And so that then goes back to the offense and making those plays. I think it's key that we're getting Caleb Goodie back. That's a huge part of this, where it felt like, Cyrus Heltman had that route that he ran down the sidelines and the ball hit his left hand and just fell to the turf. I think there was a play with Jeff Caldwell. He was over the middle that he got hit, but it looked like he was able to cradle it, but he just dropped it and it hit the turf. There was too many of those types of plays that hopefully having Caleb Goodie back can at least open up the opportunity to nail those plays once again.
Yeah, and Evan Pryor in the passing game, the screen game as well, is going to come into a factor here. They haven't had much of any screen game to work with over the last 3 weeks, so that could be a big boom for Cincinnati. Caleb Goodie not even on the injury report released as of Wednesday night, and then Evan Pryor listed as probable, along with a few other Bearcat stars who should all play, including Jake Goldie, Brendan Sorsby, Antoine Peak, Jaquan Sanks, unless there's a major setback over the next couple of days, which, knock on wood, hopefully that does not happen. But we did see that happen with Isaiah Johnson, or I believe it was Isaiah Johnson or Noah Jennings, one of the receivers last week, who was not able to end up getting out there on the field. Actually, no, it's Caleb Goodie. Caleb Goodie was probable coming into the first injury report, ended up not being able to play. So you never know exactly on Wednesday if a probable guy is going to play, but you'd hope they can trend that way, especially for the biggest game that this program has played since taking on Alabama in the 2021 college football playoff.
I'm going to say, I have a question, but I'm going to save it for later on in the show, because it's a more fun one, not necessarily analytical, but I want your take on that. But let's pivot here, because the Bearcats have a daunting matchup on the basketball court on Friday night. There's a lot of daunting going on here in Cincinnati this weekend for the Bearcats, and Louisville looks like a national title contender. So the Bearcats just need to keep this thing close for us to feel good about it. The Bearcats are home underdogs this Saturday night against BYU. Right now, FanDuel has the Bearcats laying 2.5 points. I kind of feel like that's about right. Feels hard for me to think that they would cover that without winning the ball game. So then you look at the fact that the money line for the Bearcats is plus 116. This is such a close matchup. It's hard to tell. I think the only thing that I'm really bullish on is the over-under. The over-under is set at 54.5. I feel like the Bearcats offense is going to bounce back. I don't know what that means for the defense, if the defense is going to get enough stops. So I kind of feel like they're hitting the over in this one. Over 54.5 is my pick over on FanDuel. And right now, new users can place a $5 wager, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. Those odds are unbeatable, and quite frankly, you might want to look at another game where the money line looks a little bit more sure or something like that, and you can put that $5 down and get that $300 bonus bet. That's all over at FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app today. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your day and your first listen, and we want to thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. Make sure you subscribe if you're not an everydayer. That way you make Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine. All right, so with this big matchup in basketball, it feels like, and Wes Miller said it in his pregame presser a couple of days ago, and I feel like just about everybody would agree with this point, Louisville's a national title contender. And especially with the way they just got up and really early on Kentucky, and they were kind of able to set on them. They coasted toward the end of that game. I know Kentucky made it a little bit closer, but Louisville just looked like the far and away better team in that game. Louisville's going to come in here with their hair on fire a little bit, and it seems like there's not really a path for the Bearcats to get this win. And so I look at this game and I say, just keep it close, which our friends over at KenPom think is going to happen.
Yeah, what are they? I think they're at, like, you told me 5 points. I saw Bart Torvik throughout the week has been at about 6.2 points of a difference.
83-78 was their prediction.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right to me. I would be pretty stunned if Cincinnati's top 5 defensive efficiency unit is going to allow Louisville to continue to keep posting over 100 points per game. I mean, just unbelievable. 103 points per game, second nationally behind McNeese State. Only Kentucky has held them under 100 points so far this season. This is just too much to overcome for me, though, in terms of this matchup. It's going to be really difficult for the Bearcats to win this one. ESPN Matchup Predictor gives them about an 18.6% chance. You see 41st in KenPom and entering this game. Cardinals about 10th nationally on the KenPom site. And I just am astounded by the amount of talent that Pat Kelsey has been able to amass over the past couple of years. That Adidas money is good stuff, man, because it's bringing in some serious horses out there in terms of Mikkel Brown, Ryan Conwell. This is, I think, the 3rd consecutive year Cincinnati's played Ryan Conwell on different teams. It was Indiana State 2 years ago, Xavier last year, and now he's gone down the I-71 corridor to Louisville for the matchup this year and coming back up to Heritage Bank Arena for this game. They are so good, man. So good. Just as fast, if not a little bit faster at points during this season. 27th nationally in adjusted tempo, the Cardinals are, to Cincinnati's 24th mark. But they're 7th in the country in offensive efficiency. Cincinnati not even close to that efficient. They're scoring just 78.5 points per game are the Bearcats. That's 199th in the nation. And I don't know how they're going to keep pace, Jeff, if they keep shooting the ball from outside under 30%. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to be able to keep pace with this offense. 294th nationally is where Cincinnati ranks in three-point shooting. Kerr Kriisa, Sean Abayev, those guys need to up their games and up their shooting efficiency in this one. I expect it from a guy in Kerr Kriisa, who's a veteran in the college basketball ranks, almost a 36% career shooter, but down to 25.8% so far through 4 games after, I think, going 1 of 9 or 0 for 9 or something like that in the game against Mount St. Mary's. They got to hit the threes. They got to shoot the free throws better against a Louisville team that fouls nearly 20 times per game and is pretty leaky in that sense. And overall, unless they could change their stripes on that front, I don't see how Cincinnati wins this game. They could be able to keep it close with a 65 to 70% free throw mark and a 8 or 9 made threes on a 32% clip, but you're going to need a kind of outlier boost up performance from this offense to be able to take out the Louisville Cardinals.
Well, on top of all that, and you were saying a lot of different stuff, and you didn't bring up the turnovers, which just points to the reason why this game feels like it's such an overmatch for Wes Miller's side. But like, even
not a good matchup for the Bearcats on the turnover front.
No, their non-steal turnover percentage is 345th in the country. Like, there's not that many more teams that KenPom ranks. So I think that even if they clean that up, they shoot the three better, they shoot the free throw better, like it feels like that's where they have even a shot, but that's a lot to clean up. And I thought it was funny, like after the game on Sunday, whenever they beat Mount St. Mary's, Scott Springer asked the question to Wes Miller, like, do you feel better about the turnover thing? And he's just like, what? No, I don't feel better about it. He's like, well, you turned the ball over less. Yeah, but we still had some really dumb turnovers. And I put a little bit more emotion behind Wes Miller's voice in that performance there than Wes Miller had. But he still had, he was still frustrated. And you can still point out some plays in that Mount St. Mary's game where it's just like, you just threw the ball away. And if you're going to do that a lot against Louisville, then Louisville is going to just boat race you out of the building. At Heritage Bank, where it's like, it's sort of a home game, but it's not really a home game because the ticket prices are crazy high.
It's going to be a dead environment. I hope this is the last game I ever have to cover at this horrific venue that they keep putting these neutral site games at. I mean, I don't understand. There's somehow, some way they're making more money doing it this way than holding these games at Fifth Third Arena. But I mean, it's just a slap in the face to the media. It's a slap in the face to the schedule makers. It's a slap in the face to your season ticket holders who now have to buy another ticket as opposed to a ticket that would have already been included in their plan. But I'm going to get off my soapbox on that one.
Well, no, but you're 1000% vindicated to be on the soapbox because Heritage Bank is just it's
and Wes Miller agrees with me. He went 2 minutes long talking about how the prices are too high and all that stuff on Wednesday.
Well, and Heritage Bank was due for renovations about 35 years ago, and they still haven't gotten them. And I understand there's this weirdness with who owns the arena and all this other stuff, but can we just get it done? Because these games, and it's going to be on TV, and there's going to be some people watching. They're like, where are they playing at? Like, it's not going to be a good look, and the optics are annoying with it, but even more so, you don't get any sort of home field advantage. So this is a neutral site game, and feeling as though where this game stands, you needed some sort of home field advantage to kind of make up the difference a little bit. But I think neutral site Louisville wins this game 9.995 times out of 10.
I'm in agreement. It's just a lot of stuff that Cincinnati has to clean up, as you mentioned. And to touch on the turnovers, Mount St. Mary's, yeah, sure. I think they had 10 turnovers against Mount St. Mary's, still 2 more than Mount St. Mary's has averaged going into that game. A team that was 354th in the country in turnovers forced entering Sunday. That's not what you get in Louisville, who has, as I mentioned, horses that are ready to run up and down the floor and are dominant on ball man-to-man defenders. They force 17 turnovers per contest, Jeff, 34th in the country, and they turn a lot of those points into transition buckets with Mikkel Brown and Ryan Conwell leading the way. And also, not to be taken lightly, 6'11" forward Sanandu Frew, who has an over 160 offensive rating to lead all ACC players so far this season. Massive test for Mustafa Cham and Baba Miller down low in that sense. But UC has to hit their free throws here, and it can't just be Day Thomas. They cannot just rely on Day Thomas to get to the line and be their sole kind of creator of free throw production. UC has never shot free throws well, really my entire life. They haven't shot free throws well at all under Wes Miller. One season shooting over 70% from the line in his campaigns, and they're having the worst season yet so far through 4 games, 330th nationally with a 63.4% free throw shooting mark. You got to be able to take advantage of some of these fouls by Louisville, who's given up 20 fouls per game in this short early season stint, 301st nationally. Those are some of the things you can pick on, but Cincinnati, that's not a strength for them right now.
I was going to say, like, you were mentioning the free throw statistics, and I there was like a mini trigger that went through me. I don't know what it is, and I was talking about this with Chad.
I don't know what it is, man. Yeah. They shoot. I mean, people are always like, ask them about the free throws. Ask them why they're not hitting free throws. It's like, guys, like, they're practicing free throws. They practice them a lot. They're shooting like 80% as a team in practice. You can't recreate games any more so than you're doing at practice. So I don't know what else they can do about it.
And I think I know what it is. It's like a buff, right? Like if you play like an RPG or something like that, like you put on some sort of armor or something. When you put on the UCC, what happens is you get a +1 to defense and a -2 to free throw. Like, there's something about it.
Yeah, once the practice beanie comes off and the real jersey goes on, it's like you mentioned, a new skin for one of your RPG characters.
Day-Day's like one of the few guys that I think has fought through that, but man, even he missed a free throw last week, so we're really in
And
dire
Day
shape.
Thomas been on fire so far through this early stint of the season. They might have a couple losses without him being as good as he's been. I don't know if you can rely on him to be what? He's over 80% at the line, and I think over 60% from deep so far this season. Got to have some guys rowing along with him there in terms of the outside shot and the free throws.
Yeah, they're gonna have to really be almost perfect, and quite frankly, they probably have to be perfect on offense to get this dub. I just want to see them keep it close, which is a bit of a preview for what we're going to look at, because we'll give you exactly how we predict this weekend for both basketball and football coming up next. We encourage you to keep the conversation going with us after the show is over. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and you can follow Russ at Russ Heltman 11. Hey, no Fs in that. Over on X, and you can also follow the show at LO_Bearcats. That's over there. We're on the other social medias as well too, but just talking Bearcats all the time. I talk some Reds too. There's that, and the Reds. Check out Locked On Reds for more as to why I'm going. Anyway,
yeah, hopefully the Bearcats don't have a player who has one leg play for them the entire season. Don't tell anybody.
God help us. When it comes to this football, let's start with the football game, because 2.5 point spread, I feel like that's a tough one for me to say I'm putting money down on the Bearcats. It feels like if you put something down on a 2.5 point spread, you might as well just look at the money line, because I just have a hard time thinking that it's going to be a 1 or 2 point game.
Yeah, I think it's less than 12% of the time that happens in college football. So
be a heck of a
score,
what
you may.
Yeah, like you're hitting some sort of crazy like FanDuel point square thing or whatever it is when it comes to that. So I think ultimately, though, we do see the over get hit. And if I'm going to say what I think the score ends up being, I think it ends up going 33-28. BYU gets the win.
I'm very similar to you. I got 35-28 BYU here. They get the ball at the ends. They have a couple more stops than Cincinnati. They're able to shut them down in the red zone 1 or 2 times. Cincinnati's not able to get as many, and Cincinnati loses the turnover battle here 2-1. And I think maybe a fumble or a miscue here or there, or maybe some miscommunication leads to Cincinnati giving the ball up a couple times against a BYU team that's top 12 nationally in turnover margin with a +8 mark this year. And Cincinnati, unfortunately, after the last few weeks, sitting right at 0 on the turnover margin, which is 68th nationally. They've had just as many turnovers forced as they have given away.
Yeah, I know that there was definitely some smart throws that just kind of hit the turf because they hit hands and then fell to the turf. But that seems like there were a few more throws this past week against Arizona that Brendan Sorsby made that I was like, man, that was a little bit more ill-advised than I'd seen him make a decision in this. I'm really hoping that does not continue. I think he's going to get right, but you're right. Like the defensive side of this is where I have the biggest worry as to how much Bear Bachmeier is going to get his. He's a true freshman that just got the job because of some crazy circumstances before the season began. And we all kind of wondered looking at BYU like, man, true freshman quarterback, what you got? Dude does not look like a true freshman at all. And I just don't think that it's the Bearcats defense that's going to be the thing to expose him.
I agree. I mean, it's just, I don't see how they're going to slow him down in terms of when he drops back to pass and the decisions that he's going to be able to make against this secondary. Number 4 in EPA per rush offense, number 16 in EPA per drop back offense. They are just so hyper efficient that to me, it's too much to overcome for a Cincinnati defense that's been leaky all season. Maybe, just maybe, Dante Corleone has one more kind of bastion of heroics left in him in his final home game at Cincinnati. He feels healthy. He looks healthy. Played a season high 45 snaps last week against Arizona. So maybe he can be that kind of disruptor in the middle that Cincinnati they haven't had anything like that along the defensive front all season long. And you're going to have it against an offense that is this good and this competent in terms of protecting Bear Bachmeier. I mean, we may not see a sack all game from either of these teams when you think about Cincinnati having the number 1 sack EPA allowed on offense in the country this season, going up against the number 9 sack EPA offense allowed in BYU. These are two just dominant defensive lines that could have their way with the opposing front all day long or all night long.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough for me to say, like, because like I want to say there's some juju in the senior night thing, but man, like Bear Bachmeyer, like, man, when I was 18 years old, I think my biggest accomplishment was I prestige in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I wasn't doing what Bear Bachmeyer's doing on a
similar to me as well. Yeah, nothing too crazy there.
It definitely wasn't like anything like what he's doing. But switching gears onto the hardwood when it comes to Bearcats Louisville, man, I'd be thrilled if Ken Pom was right and it was a 5-point game. I think I would chalk that up as a moral victory. I know that you don't like to talk about moral victories and losses when it comes to things, but I think this is one of those scenarios where it would make sense because I think that there would be a lot about the offense that gets cleaned up. I have a hard time predicting that, though. I'm interested to see. We're recording this before the point spread comes out. I'd be interested to see what the point spread is over on FanDuel. I think just keep it within double digits, and I will be happy.
I'm with you. I think it'll be a single-digit game in my eyes. I'm going with the Bearcats to lose this one 85-78, and they keep the Louisville Cardinals under 90 points for the first time in their season coming up. But it's just too much talent for me to think that Cincinnati's going to overcome this one. Mikel Brown, Ryan Conwell, they have been dynamite all season long, both averaging over 19 points per game. I mean, how often do you see? You don't see that often at all in college basketball. To go with 3 other guys posting 10-plus points per outing, it's just so many things to account for on the defensive side of the ball. And then I think Cincinnati will have some offensive success. I think they'll regress to the mean a little bit more than their 29.9% three-point percentage suggests. I think they'll can 10 or 11 threes in this game and keep it relatively close, but not able to get the job done ultimately. And what basically everybody had as a loss going into this season. I mean, from what Louisville brought to the table in the transfer portal, what they bring to the table in terms of Mikel Brown, a top 10 prospect in the country and playing like maybe the best. I mean, he's right up there with all of those other phenoms and Darren Peterson and AJ DeBansa in this freshman class. So they are as advertised, and you just want to keep this one from getting embarrassing if you're the Cincinnati Bearcats, and maybe give yourself a chance down the stretch to hit some of those extra threes from Kerr Kriisa. Maybe he has some ice in his veins, and the veteran can dig into some crunch time moments to give the Bearcats an upset win. It would be shocking to me if that happens, but we've seen crazier things happen. I mean, they went into first year of Wes Miller's tenure and beat a top 15 team in the first couple weeks of the season. Kind of haven't had a win like that since then very often. They haven't won very many of these big time top 10 matchups, which obviously are difficult to win, but you'd like to see it happen sooner rather than later.
Could use that win that really revs the engine, and this would certainly be that. And to Kerr Kriisa's point, like, dude went 1 for 9 from behind the arc in his last game. I don't expect that to be what he does the rest of this season. Like I think between him and Sean Abayev, I think they were 1 for 14.
Yeah, there were 4 for 20 overall. I mean, it's a new rim and it's a new shooting environment, so you never know how that hurts you or helps you. But you got to think guys with that kind of talent are not going to post that kind of performance like they did against Mount St. Mary's in a not even close to covering the betting spread effort for Cincinnati on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that they'll bounce back, but to bounce back, it's going to be a single-digit game. One thing before we get out of here, and this was something I was thinking about earlier, because looking back on it now, it's kind of annoying. Iowa State was really high ranked whenever the Bearcats beat them, and
they're gone from the rankings,
and they're gone. They're way outside the rankings, but fans rush the field whenever they beat Iowa State. Are they rushing the field if we beat BYU?
Oh yeah, you definitely rush the field. Got to. I think I forget it would be the highest ranked win since at least the 2010 season. Maybe I think it dating back to maybe Rutgers back in 2006 or something like that, in terms of the highest ranked opponent that's come to Cincinnati and played at Nippert Stadium. I'm all for rushing the field if you get this victory. You have to. You're keeping your Big 12 title hopes alive, and you're taking out a top 12 team and maybe driving the stake through their chances of getting to the college football playoff. You have to rush the field in that sense.
And make no mistake about it, the 2.5-point spread is going to cover up the fact that I think everybody on the Big Noon Kickoff, probably everybody on College Game Days, they're all going to pick BYU. I don't think people are picking UC.
Which is
funny,
funny,
we're not picking UC. I don't think anybody else is.
Right. And it's funny because UC was a 3.5-point favorite going into this Arizona game on Saturday, and things flipped very quickly after that loss, and BYU got the job done easily, 44-13 at home against TCU. So obviously one result there this past weekend has flipped the line 5.5 points. I don't know if that's necessarily what should have happened, but we're going to find out on Saturday night.
It's going to be a fun one. We're going to have you covered all here on Locked On Bearcats, and Russ will have you covered over on Bearcats on SI. Thank you so much for making Locked On Bearcats part of your day. Make sure that you subscribe, that you hit the like button, comment, all the things, help out the algorithm, helps folks find us more easily. And make sure you check out Drake Toll over on Locked On Big 12 as he covers the most exciting conference in all of college sports, from the championship game to the first game and everything in between, the rivalries and all that stuff. It's a lot of fun over on Locked On Big 12. So's the Squad Show. We had a fun time talking about how the Big 12 can get 2 teams in the playoff. I think it's probably not going to happen, but it's a fun idea to talk about at least. That's all on Locked On Big 12, just like Locked On Bearcats. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcast. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.